ஆல் இண்டியா ரேடியோ செய்திக்கதம்பம்.
தமிழகத்தில் சிறப்பு பொருளாதார மண்டலங்கள் மூலம் ஏற்றுமதியை மேம்படுத்துதல் தொடர்பான கருத்தரங்கம் சென்னையில் நடைபெற்றது. இதில் கலந்து கொண்டு பேசினார் சிறப்பு பொருளாதார மண்டல சென்னை வளர்ச்சி ஆணையர் திரு M.K. சண்முக சுந்தரம். அவர் பேசும்போது,
It is always useful to visit the history. History is an important aspect of any entity, including human beings. So if you look at trace the history of special economic zones, we have to go back to 1950s. In the later part of 1950s, an airport was still there in Ireland, that is called the Shannon International Airport. So there was a director by name Mr. Brendan O'Regan. So he initiated and took efforts to establish the first modern free trade zone in Ireland. So he was not an industrialist, he was not a businessman, he was the director of Shannon International Airport. So from there, the thinking of the business world has seen a new change. So that paved way for the establishment of free trade zones across the globe. So India was not far behind. India was the front runner. In 1965 itself, we have established Asia's first free trade zone, that is called Export Processing Zone in Kandla, Gujarat, 1965. O'Regan has established that zone in Ireland near the Shannon International Airport in 1956 or 57. Within 8-9 years of time, India has formally installed brand new the first EPZ, Export Processing Zone, in Asia. Not only in India, but also in Asia. 10 years down the line in 1975, SEEPS was established in Mumbai. Santa Cruz Export Processing Zone was established. After 5 years in 1980, there were 4 such zones were established. One right in Chennai, another one in Cochin, the third one was in Kolkata, and fourth was in Noida, near Delhi. So all 4 were simultaneously established. Then in 1989, Vizag Export Processing, an EPZ at the time, was established. So we are having 7 zones across the country. So now we are having, after that, in 2005, SEZ Act came into being, and 2006 SEZ rules were framed. They have allowed the private players to set up the SEZs. So right now we are having 268 special economic zones across the country, and all those EPZs which were already functioning and operating have been converted into SEZs. So 268 special economic zones across the country, and more than 5,000 units are operating in these 268 SEZs as of now. As far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, there are 49 SEZs. We can say another 50 will be coming up maybe in another 2-3 months. So 49 are functional now. In these 49 SEZs, there are 610 units are operating. So we cannot talk about exports without mentioning export-oriented units, EOUs. EOU scheme was introduced in 1980, and we have more than 1,700 EOUs across the country, out of which 322 are in our own state here, our own zone that comprises Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry and Karaikal regions, also the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Of course, we are not having any export-oriented unit or SEZ in islands. But in Puducherry, yes, more than 20 EOUs are operating. We have been trying for establishing an IT SEZ in Puducherry, in Pondicherry especially, but it's not happening at the earliest. So these SEZs altogether, they contribute to 28% of the India's export basket. 28% is not a big thing. Of course, it's a big thing. So 28% of India's exports are by SEZs. If you add EOUs, it will be more than maybe around 34 or 35% being contributed by both SEZs and EOUs put together. So India has crossed 400 billion magic mark of US dollars export last year in 2020-21, thanks to our SEZs and EOUs. And we are marching towards a $5 trillion economy. So US is having about $24 trillion US dollar economy, and after that China is having $14 trillion, and we are now at $2.9 trillion. Hopefully we may reach $5 trillion economy by 2025 in another 2 to 3 years time. So hopefully that is because of you all. When the pandemic started in 2000, it was a very, very lull time. So manufacturing was down by 95%. We were all worried. Lockdowns were there and the lockdowns were lifted face by face. However, our industrialists, our businessmen, they have taken up it as a challenge and come out with flying colors. That's why we could able to create the export generation for more than $400 billion in the manufacturing, that is the merchandise sector, and $250 billion in the service sector. So SEZs were having a great time. We can say that the glorious period of SEZs belonged to between 2005 and 2012. So at the time the IT exemptions were there and there was no MAT. So MAT was introduced in 2012. So people used to say that MAT has driven our industrial brethren MAD. So in 2012 it was introduced. At the time it was about 12.5%. Later it got increased up to 18%. I think probably now 18.5 or 19%. And the concessions have been withdrawn in a phased manner. The income tax benefit which was accrued to the developer was withdrawn. Then later on the IT benefit for the units have been withdrawn. Then the latest withdrawal was MEIS because of WTO. And the ROTUP is not a replacement for MEIS because it is a remission of duty. MEIS was an incentive scheme. So in the remission of duty, a ROTUP committee was constituted and the committee has visited our SEZ very recently and they have collected and collated the data. So many of the units couldn't provide the data, the embedded tax details have to be given. After that, some of the units have come forward and have given the data and details so that the ROTUP committee can work out the methods by which they can propose the tax incentive system. So this is the situation now. Hopefully, ROTUP committee will recommend to the government of India that ROTUP should be extended to our SEZ units and EOUs. Hopefully, let us see that we'll see the light of the day. And in the meanwhile, there were three things happened in between the months of February and April. On 18th of February, India has entered into an agreement with UAE. On 31st of March, we crossed 400 billion magic mark of exports. On 8th of April, India entered into a trade agreement with Australia. So with Australia, whatever we export will not attract any import duty when our goods reach the shores of Australia. And the same way in UAE also, more than 90% of our products are exempted from paying any import duty. So our goods can become very competitive and they can have extensive coverage. There are more than FTAs, what we hear. Earlier there were about 11 FTAs, now 2 have been added. Another 3 in the pipeline. One is with UK, another is with EU, and the third one is with Canada. The 3 are in pipeline. Probably in this year itself, all 3 will be done. So we will be having 5 new FTAs. So the count will be 16 by the end of June of 2023. So in these FTAs, there is a resolution mechanism is available. Any dispute is there, the resolution can be there, and many other items are there. Annexes for the pharmaceutical products, that's also being introduced. So many new ingredients have been added into this FTA to make it an FTA plus. It is just not FTA, we can say FTA plus. And if you look at the SEZ Act itself, yes, SEZ Act is undergoing a sea change, it seems. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry is working on that along with the Ministry of Finance, especially Department of Revenue. And probably by September, the Act may be in place. We have from our side also, we have given our suggestions for each section of the Act. So if you are having any suggestion, anything you want to say that this should be included, this should be modified, this should be changed in that particular Act, and if any particular section, or if you want anything, any new section had to be added. So please come forward and send us through emails or a letter form so that we can send it to the Ministry of Commerce after examining at our level.
இத்துடன் இன்றைய செய்திக் கதம்பம் நிறைவு பெறுகிறது.